All right, Coach. I'll just have you start off with your opening statement, just wrapping up the game this past week in Tulsa, in the neutral site, and then just you guys' thought process going into your first conference game this Sunday.
Yeah, so we basically have, one non-conference game left on the 28th. So it's kind of weird having a conference game before you finish non-conference, but we're excited. I told our guys it's a new season for sure, and everybody's 0-0 when you go into conference play, and we have 20 of those left. So they'll all be tough. We know how hard and challenging Conference USA is. You'll have to play your best day in and day out, and we're very blessed that we get to start at home. So hopefully, also being back home, I think we had 5 straight games on the road or something like that. So just to be able to be back here and a place that we have played well this year and in front of our home crowd, we know what our crowds can be like, and so we're excited to see what all that looks like. And then everybody gets to go home for 4 or 5 days, get a little bit of a restart, recharge, and then we'll get back. We'll have a warm-up game on the 28th before we get back to dive into conference play again. But yeah, to rehash last week, our Texas swing, as I was just telling Nick, it wasn't good to us, and hopefully we didn't win those games, but hopefully we learned a lot in losses. We didn't play particularly well, I didn't think, in all 3 of those games. There were bits and pieces of the South Alabama game where we were pretty competitive, and I thought, we definitely should have won that game. But Abilene, I wasn't really pleased with the overall performance for 40 minutes. And then the Tulsa game was just a tale of 2 halves. I thought we were really poor in the first half, and I thought we kind of got back to ourselves and then competed like I want to in the second half. But Tulsa's a really, really good team. They're going to have a chance to win the AAC, and I see them as being a team that'll go to the NCAA and win a couple of games. They're one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country, and they also have tremendous size. So it was a great matchup for us. Again, tremendous competition, and normally, when you face adversity, you find out a lot about your team. And I think our guys have an opportunity now to take that and learn from it, and hopefully we can get back to playing the way I want to play.
Coach, obviously your former team, Sam Houston, you guys are going to welcome them. Just overall emotions heading into this game. Obviously not your first time facing them here at home, but just overall emotions heading into this game on Sunday.
Yeah, I think after a couple of years, those emotions change a little bit. There's always going to still be that feeling there, and there's a lot of people that still work there, including the head coach that, I care about, love, and have a lot of, just feelings for. And then really, they've only got 1 player left on the roster that I recruited and, that I coached for 2 years. So other than that, I think it's just like anything else in life. The longer you're away from somewhere or someone, it changes a little bit of the outlook. It'll always be a weird game for me just because, Coach Mudge and I were so close. When you work with someone every day for 13 years and you are really, really, you're in it together and you have a lot to do with building something special, then, those feelings are always going to be there. It's always going to be hard and difficult. It's like, really and truly, it would just be like you coaching against your son. It'd be really hard to do. I remember when I was an assistant coach at Sam Houston and we scrimmaged against Tarleton, and Coach Reisman was still coaching. That was weird, like a really difficult feeling for me. And, you're a competitor, so when the game starts, you want to beat the heck out of somebody. It doesn't matter, right? And I think that's going to be the case. Care about each other, but when the game starts, we want to really, really badly be 1-0, and they will too. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing, if this week of practice really helps our guys, and also, like I said, some of the things that we hopefully learned in those last 3 games, we can take that and we can maybe get back to playing the way we were and even better.
Oh, sorry.
No, you said.
Yeah, just kind of bouncing off of that, just with Sam Houston, they're 6-3 right now also, and I saw their only 3 losses were against Big 12 opponents. So just kind of without giving too much away, how do you guys kind of plan to approach them?
Well, they're good. I mean, they're very talented. You know, they have a lot of speed and quickness. I think they're playing at a pace right now is top 60th, I think, in the country in pace of play. So they're really trying to score. They're trying to get out. They're trying to get up and down. You know, we're going to have to be prepared for that for sure. They play tonight. They play at Oregon State tonight, and you know, I wouldn't be shocked if they don't win that game. You know, I've seen Oregon State play a few times, and I think that Sam Houston definitely can win that game. So, you know, they'll get here, I guess, sometime this week, and you know, we will have some great preparation time and opportunity to get prepared. You know, they still do a lot of the same things that Chris and I did when I was there, and you know, he's added a lot of his twists and a lot of things that he believes in. And I just think overall, though, they've got a really good team, and I mean, you know, it's going to be a struggle and it's going to be a battle.
For this game, I remember you mentioned something last week that for this game, for the first conference game, you guys kind of got to, like, I guess, like, massage the game around and kind of like see, like, if it can be played here or this Sunday or on the first week. Was that something that you guys maybe want to do, move it up, or not play it on in January? What was that?
Yeah, no, so our conference, you know, obviously playing 20 games, you have to start in December to play a 20-game conference schedule. Everybody in the country that plays 20 conference games starts in December. The problem is that, you know, the date that the conference had all of our games scheduled was the 28th or the 29th, and no one wants to go home for 4 days or 5 days for Christmas break and come back and play a conference game, the first game. Nobody wants to do that. And so our conference gave us this last spring, they all gave us the opportunity to move that first game around to where we were comfortable with it. And, you know, Chris and I decided, you know, he had that game already scheduled on this Wednesday against Oregon State. That's a money game for them. I wasn't going to, you know, change that. They needed that game, and he had that game. Those games, as we all know, those are hard to come by. So we just decided, you know, we were going to play Saturday. Originally, we had a game scheduled for today too, and that game fell through. So we both felt like playing on Saturday wouldn't have given us enough time, because we were both going to be on the road, and by the time we both would have gotten here, we just didn't feel like we had enough recovery time in order to get ready for that Saturday game. So we just decided on Sunday. And the other reason that we really wanted to move that one to Sunday is so that we would have less days off. So like our guys are going to go home on Tuesday, the 22nd, Monday the 22nd. So if you give them off the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, and come back the 26th, then you get a legitimate 4 days of Christmas. The other reason that we both didn't want to play on the 28th or 29th was because then that gives you 3 conference games in the same week. So you'd play the 28th, 29th, you'd play January 2nd, and you'd play January 4th, and 3 games in 1 week for the first week of conference. It's not something that somebody wants to do. It doesn't make sense. And not to mention, from a personal standpoint, for us, I didn't want to do that because we got to take the longest trip of the year, and we got to go all the way to Miami, and then we got to go from Miami to Springfield, Missouri, which I'm still not even sure how you get there. So, yeah, it just made sense. You know, I mean, a Sunday afternoon's probably not always ideal, but, you know, I talked to our people, and they all felt really good about it. You know, I know our community, they'll come out. They always do. I know the kids aren't here, the students aren't here, but we'll still have a really good crowd here on Sunday afternoon against a great competition.
Defensively during that Texas trip, it seemed like there were halves where teams would just, you know, they would shoot really well against you guys. You know, Tulsa had that, Abilene had that, but then the other halves would be pretty good. You guys would kind of lock in. What's the key to kind of doing that consistently and making sure that there isn't those spurts of where Tulsa can be at 22 at half and you guys have to overcome a big deficit?
Simple. 1 word, 2 words, keep the ball in front. Yeah, we did a really poor job in those 3 games of, you know, keeping the ball in front. When you get beat off penetration, then it creates a lot of helping, and, you know, when you have to help is when you give up open shots to people. So we got to go back to doing a good job of being who we are, and that's to keep that basketball in front. You know, you just can't keep constantly getting beat off the dribble. And we did through that 3-game stretch. Now, also I'll say this, you know, in that 3-game stretch, 2 of those 3 games we played against a point guard that's likely going to play in the NBA. And so, you know, that's, you know, there's a 6'6" point guard at South Alabama that was really good, and the 6'3", 6'4" point guard at Tulsa. You know, both of those guys scored 28 points, and, you know, they're another level type player. And so sometimes those guys are hard to guard. They create a lot for their team. They create a lot for themselves. You know, even on the game against Tulsa, when we got it down to 7 and we were right there where we needed to be, you know, he went and got a couple of baskets in that stretch or got fouled. And so we just got to be better there. We got to keep the ball in front. We got to do a better job there. And, you know, I think that'll really limit some of those 3-pointers that we were giving up.
The rotation and the current lineup for you guys right now, is that something that you're content with, or do you feel like there's going to be any changes before
No, I mean, I still don't have a, you know, I don't have a totally clear picture because I think some of our guys just haven't done enough to separate themselves from others. And, you know, whether it's a guy who comes in and maybe he makes a few shots, but he's not playing defense or doing what we need to do, and then I got to get him out because he's giving up baskets, or, you know, vice versa. You know, you put a guy in and he's not making shots, you know, so you're trying somebody else. So right now, again, like we tell all of our players, you know, we just got to do a better job of making it hard on me. Making it hard on me as to, you know, who I'm going to play because you're playing well, not because I'm trying to find somebody that, you know, is trying to get in a groove. You know, we also got in a little foul trouble in Tulsa in the first half, and that messed up my rotation a little bit. Same thing against South Alabama and Abilene, you know. You know, look, I mean, we didn't play the way we needed to or the way I was expecting us to play. But everybody knows, I mean, you know, it's difficult to win on the road. Whether it's a neutral site game or not, there's always some reasons and some things that make it a little more difficult than being at home, for sure. You know, and if you look at our record right now, I mean, we're 0-1 on the road and we're 2-2 in neutral site games. And I think that every coach in the country, by the end of the year, if you win your home games, and you probably are a little bit above water on the road, doesn't matter what sport it is, NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, I think everybody, if you look at their records and you have those, probably those splits, you're going to like where you're at and where you're sitting at the end of the year.
Kind of building upon that, I know you said the past 3 games, your defensive identity kind of got away from you a little bit. When you look at the stats statistically, the last 3 games, 3 that you dropped, giving up 45 to 50% shooting from the field, just anything less than that, though, you guys have won. What do you think is like the magic number, in your opinion, if there is such a...
Not really much as a number as it is just keep the ball in front, you know. I mean, those games, if you'll go back and look, I mean, the games that we won, you know, we did an excellent job of keeping the point guard in front, or not just the point guard, whoever's trying to drive and make plays. You know, just gotta do a better job of that. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, as far as a number, I mean, my goal always is to hold opponents under 40% field goal, and that's hard to do for sure. My championship teams, our championship teams, most of the time, you know, if you can hold somebody in the 30s, you're probably going to have a chance to be pretty good. Now, a lot of that, you know, there's different philosophies from different coaches because of turnovers maybe created, or, you know, rebounding numbers, or, you know, more importantly, you taking care of the ball as a team, which I think right now, you know, we've done a fairly good job of. We're right at about 12 exactly on the nose per game. I would like to be 10 or 11 as a team. I think if you can create more turnovers, which we are right now, I think we're a +4 against our opponents. If you can keep that number there and then you can get your number down to 10 or 11, then again, that's another one of those statistics that could offset that field goal percentage a little bit. But, you know, I think when I grab a box score, you know, whether it's halftime or at the end of the game, that's usually the first statistic I look at is what is that field goal defense on the other team. The points are a little bit skewed sometimes because of pace of play. You know, if you're a team that doesn't play as fast, then, you know, the scores should be a little bit lower. And, you know, I always also look at, you know, when you look at a box score, you look at overall statistics, you know, what are you as a team, like plus what to your opponent's score. So, you know, if you're a +2 or +3 like we were last year, then you end up with a lot of really, really close games. And we all know, like, close games, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. So we want to try to get that separation in that number, +8. I think right now we're somewhere around there. That's kind of what you want to keep, because then, if you're 8 points better than your opponents every night, you're probably going to win more games than you're going to lose. And so we have a lot of work to do still. We're still, I know it's 9 games in, and, when you say that, people are like, you've played 9 games, but when you have 11 new players, there's not a coach out there in the country right now that's probably not going through the same thing we are. Nobody feels sorry for you. It's just the way, it's the day and age. It's the way the game is now. And, as a coach, as a staff, as a team and a program, you have to figure it out. The quickest way that you can get to the result that you want to get to, you have to figure that out. So we're working every day trying to improve and get better, and you're really, trying to find, as Nick said, the right lineups, I think also, and then the rotations, and then I think too, just trying to get your guys to understand like what's important and how hard these games are. That game on Sunday, it's going to be the hardest game of the year, just like the game last Saturday was. I just think there's so much parity now. There's just no more of this. I know how good Liberty is, and I don't want to start up any kind of. But I mean, if you look at Liberty, I mean, they're 6-4 right now, 6-3, 7-3. Like, just there's so much parity in college basketball. I mean, you look at these Division IIs. Look at the Division IIs that we played. I mean, those 2 schools are good. Those games with us were 12, 14-point games. There's a difference when you're playing those kind of teams and when you're playing, the biblical studies school, and that game's a 40 or 50 or 60-point game. You just don't see a lot of those. And I just think that we're just in a really different time. NIL it's changed. I think for a lot of levels that have around the same kind of money, it's really evened it out, right? Now there's still a big, there's a disparity there between some schools and maybe other leagues where you can see maybe there's $1 million difference in there or something. And then, there's a difference there, right? But I think when everybody's kind of dealing with the same amount of money, I just think that there's more parity now than there ever was in the game.
New Mexico State announced a new deal with Adidas coming in next year. Just wanted to your thoughts on that, and if you feel like that's a good thing for the school.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about, how it is. I mean, we're in the middle of our season right now, and I've just kind of been hunkered down and worrying about our team. I don't know. I just know this. I know if it's what Joe decided on in our administration, then I know it's a good deal, because I got a lot of trust in Joe and our administration, what we're deciding on. So I know if he made that decision or they made that decision, then that's probably a really, really good deal for our programs and our kids, our student athletes, our university. So anytime, a decision is made like that, and you feel like it's a really good decision, then it's exciting. So I'm excited. It's something new. But again, I just think that because the decision was made, that tells me that this is going to be a really, really good venture for everybody involved. So it's exciting.
Coach, now that you've been with getting to know your team, obviously you've been getting to know them preseason, but now that actual season, regular season, a month and a half. So how would you kind of assess what new things have you kind of learned about your team, just overall the team culture? How would you kind of describe it at this point of the season?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think more than anything, we've had an opportunity. It's been weird because we went 6-0, and so you had an opportunity to see how your guys handle success, right? Because it's also as important as how you handle failure, and we've lost 3 in a row. So now we've had an opportunity to see what it's like to have a little bit of some adversity and some failure. So I think we're still now figuring out what that next phase and that next step is, and maybe we learn from, okay, we won a couple in a row now, like, okay, but we got to stay who we are. We got to continue to do those things that made us 6-0. And then on the flip side, you don't want to try to lose 3 in a row again. Like, I think good teams find a way after maybe a loss. They find a way to bounce back that next game. Whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 in a row on the road. you got to figure out a way to win one of those. So I'm hoping that we've learned a lot about that, and that will also, in essence, tell us a lot about ourselves. But I also think that's still to be determined. I want to see how we're going to respond on Sunday, and I want to see how we're going to come back and play on the 28th, and then make that first road trip, to Miami and to Springfield. That's going to be a good determining and a measuring stick. It's go time. It's an opportunity now for us to get off to a great start at home in this tremendous conference, and to your point, just see a little bit about what we're made out of and what we've learned.
I see Jamel Jones has still been the most consistent guard that you guys have. How do you as a coach kind of get other players or to kind of, maintain that consistency as well? I've been seeing there's some players who will have a good game and then kind of, just fall off a little bit and then come back. But yeah, just kind of back to the question, just how do you as a head coach kind of help them out with just maintaining that consistency?
Yeah, I think Jamel, we all knew coming into the season, he's pretty much he's a natural born scorer. I think other guys, we've had some guys that have stepped up and done well, and then like you said, on some games they're not as good. But I think that's part of having a really good balanced team. We'd love to have 3 guys maybe that average double figures, but I've also had championship teams and good teams where you've had 6, 7 guys average somewhere between 7 and what Jamel's averaging, and you just I think when you have that, then you don't have to necessarily depend on this particular guy getting you 15, 16 every night. Our saying is like, you have a different person who's going to drive the bus. Somebody's getting a chance to drive the bus every night. And when you have, a guy who, like Jalen is averaging 8 or 9 a game, but on any given night, like against South Alabama, he got 20 something. And so, Anthony's been pretty consistent around that 7 or 8. Elijah's been pretty consistent around that 7 or 8. So I think if we can get 4 or 5 guys that are consistently around that 8, 9, 10 number, then like, okay, well, tonight's his night, and tonight he got 16. And, but just being able to put 4 guys on any given game, 4 guys on any given game or in double figures is where I want to get. And so part of that is, rotation and playing time and fitting into the plays that we're running and the motion or whatever we're doing, and still tinkering with things and changing a few things here and there, and also getting our guys a little bit more comfortable, getting them comfortable in what we're trying to do offensively, and the fit and the fit with each other too. So still young season, we're not even to the, I guess we're a quarter of the way there now, and we're still learning and still trying to figure some things out. And I would expect here in the next couple of weeks that we'll start to see some changes, and I do think some people will elevate themselves above, and I think those averages will go up a little bit for sure. Good.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Tough stretch for you guys the last 3, but 6-3 after a great start. So just overall takeaways from these 3 losses and kind of what you have learned about the team during adversity, since this is your first time going through it all together.
I would say, as far as facing adversity, we got to come out stronger. We can't give the opponent an upper hand at the beginning of the game, and come out stronger. Do what we do offensively, defensively. Just do what we do every day in practice. It's because that's why we work so hard. Just not to give them that advantage, and because we come out in the second half and we play a whole lot better, but we have to get that energy and transfer it over to when we start. But I think we're learning a lot about ourselves for sure, especially after these 3 losses. But you got to learn from your losses so you can grow. So it's a good opportunity. It sucks, but it is what it is. We'll come out stronger at the end. Yeah.
Defensively, you seems like opponents, Tulsa, Abilene, you guys have had have had halves where they can't seem to miss, and you
Yeah.
guys are shooting, and you guys aren't really playing good defense in those halves. But then the other half comes along, and you guys kind of lock in and start improving. But you guys are already facing like a big deficit, like you guys were down 22 and a half against
Yeah.
Tulsa. How do you guys try to maintain consistency on defense over 2 halves, and so you guys aren't facing those huge deficits or huge swings of shooting?
Well, as I said, coming out strong, we gotta pay attention to detail, to the scouting reports and stuff like that. But that's just going back to what I said. That's why we work so hard in practice every day. Coach instills in us. This is how we're gonna win. This fuels our offense. This will keep us going. This will win us a championship, and we all believe in him. So we just gotta take what he says, shoot, whether it be harsh or not, take it with a grain of salt, take it on the chin. And go out there and do the best we possibly can.
You guys have Sam Houston. I know they're also 6-3 right now, with 3 losses for the Big 12 opponents. Just what's kind of been the message from Coach? I don't know if you guys have been able to watch them, but they also play tonight, where you guys will be able to watch them. But just how do you guys plan to approach this team? Obviously, Coach's former team, Anthony's former team also, so there's a little bit more added tension with that. But just overall, just how do you guys plan to approach them?
As you said, we're all a lot similar since Coach and Ant came from there. But same as any other game plan, just going in there, trying to handle business, paying attention to detail, just got a report, just doing what we do on the court. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Just a question for you individually. Obviously, you came from Big Sky Conference. Now your first Conference USA game. Just what did you hear about CUSA play last year? Because there was a lot of parity. I mean, teams were going back and forth, first, second, third. It was a lot. So just what did you hear about conference play, and now that you're about to play in your first?
It's definitely a step up from the Big Sky. That's what I've definitely heard. But it's a whole lot more intense. Better teams, better players, better coaches. It's overall, just as I said, a step up. But I'm ready for it. I mean, this is what I've dreamed for. This is what I've wanted to do since I was this little. So it is what it is. Still, they lace them up the same way we do. We just got to take care of our business and do what we do.
I wanted to ask you just about Anthony, because when I got to sit down and talk to him just about his entry in Mexico State and talk to me about when he was on the practice squad, he maybe didn't really feel all that maybe well because he was still a practice squad guy and he was still meeting teammates who weren't quite sure why he was there. But then, when he officially joined the team and you guys got to come in, he did feel more welcome despite the fact that it was almost completely new guys compared to who he was practicing with. When you guys were coming in and you guys were seeing Anthony, he was technically a new player, but had already been there for a while. What was it like, meeting him and just seeing him and just, the fact that he was kind of already there for a bit to kind of introduce you guys to the program?
Shoot, he did a great job. He definitely gave us a good feel for what Hooten is about and how he carries himself and stuff like that. What the day-to-day process is going to look like, practice, weights, games, stuff like that. But Tech's actually my roommate, so I got to know him really pretty well over the summer and the course of the semester. So he's a great guy. I have nothing but positive things to say about him.
What's he like?
Shoot, he's a yapper. He talks a whole lot. He's always on the phone talking in Polish. I have no idea what he's saying. But he's always talking on the phone. You can never really shut him up. But him and I are kind of like polar opposites. I'm really quiet, like in tune to myself, and he's just like very extrovert and stuff like that. So it's got a good balance between us two.
Just kind of bouncing off of that, hearing you say you're kind of a quiet guy, but I remember me just being at the practice that I've been at. You're the opposite on the court. I know you've been. I think I spoke to you also just preseason. You were talking about just your leadership and how you really, with you being a veteran, taking those veteran skills obviously to this team. How do you feel like that leadership role has kind of been going for you so far?
I'm still trying to get a hang of it for sure, just because it's tough coming off of 6 wins, just 3 losses in a row. But I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. I love all the guys on the team, all hoopers, all goofballs off the court. But when it's time to lock in, they know when to turn it on and turn it off. But as I said, I feel like I'm getting the hang of it day to day, practice by practice. But I'm definitely not the same juice on and off the court. That's for sure. Yeah.
Where does that nickname come from?
like shortly after I was born, one of my auntie's fiancés at the time, he just kind of came up with it, and it stuck ever since. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Last question for me, just what do you feel has been the response from the guys after 3 straight losses, and how do you guys kind of plan to turn that around?
Everyone carries themselves with a pretty high standard in this program, including the coaching staff. So coming off those 3 losses, of course they're hard, of course they're tough, but we're going to learn from them. We're going to be able to take what we did not so well and improve on those in practice and stuff like that. But we're very optimistic, keeping our heads high. It's still a long season, a whole lot more games to go. So it's just good learning lessons to take away from.
Offensively, anyone can show up any given night. You obviously had a team high against Tulsa. Jamel's obviously been consistent. Anthony, there's a lot of guys who can score, and it can be their night any given night. Coach was saying, what did he say? Anyone can drive the bus or something?
Yeah.
I guess that's his saying. For you guys, so just how do you go about that come game day? It's like, okay, maybe I'm struggling a little bit, but Jamel's hot, or Jamel's maybe struggling. I'm good. I'm feeling good. Like, how do you guys kind of game plan on the fly, knowing you guys have a lot of different shooters? Does that make sense?
I mean, you can't really plan for that, honestly. You just go out and see what happens. But say I'm not having the best night and Jamel's got it on a heater, I just got to do my best to do my other jobs to impact the game, whether that be rebounding, playing defense, blocking shots, etc. But just doing our jobs collectively as a unit to the best of our ability, and then whoever's playing that night is playing. So.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Of course, y'all have a good one.